Welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, the cozy corner where whispers turn into stories and glittering headlines get the heartbeat they deserve. Today, fasten your seatbelts, because we're stepping straight into the orbit of two names that refuse to leave the spotlight, Gökberk and Cemre. Secrets finally surfacing, a love that no one expected, and a quiet pact that kept even the sharpest eyes guessing. This is the episode you've been asking for, and it's the one we've been waiting to tell. Before we dive into the juicy center, a quick nudge for our faithful family and the newcomers peeking in. If you haven't already, subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss the waves of revelations that roll through Turkish Spotlight Secrets every week. You know we've always got another curtain to lift, and today it's all about Gawkberg and Seamra. Two forces who collided and then somehow managed to keep the sparks under wraps long enough to surprise even their closest watchers. For those who've only caught glimpses of this storm, let's set the stage. Gökberk is the kind of actor who walks into a scene and doesn't need a line to be heard. Charisma? It follows him like a loyal shadow. He made his name in intense dramas, then proved he could turn on a smile and charm his way through lighter roles just as easily. Opposite him in today's story stands Cemre, the voice that has been sneaking onto playlists and refusing to leave. She's not just a singer, she's a storyteller, a pulse, a confession set to melody. When she steps on stage, she spreads her wings and, somehow, the whole room breathes along with her. Together, they've formed a duo that audiences can't quite label, because every label feels too small. The chemistry between them appeared suddenly, like a flashbulb catching something real at midnight, and immediately became the talk everyone wanted to have, only to find out, again and again, that the conversation kept slipping through their fingers. How did they do it? How do two people so closely watched manage to keep an entire chapter of their lives tucked away while living in glass rooms and mirrored halls? You remember how it started. First, the faint rumors. A glance shared at an industry gala, an overlapping presence at a private screening, the kind of coincidences that feed hungry timelines. Someone took a blurry photo across a velvet rope, someone else clipped an interview where a question about special company earned a half smile and a carefully chosen pause. Most of us shrugged and kept scrolling. After all, there are always whispers, and most of them dissolve by morning's light. But then the whispers didn't go away. They gathered, layered, thinned out, then returned like a tide. And with that came the part we love, the part where pieces start fitting together, not because anyone shouts the truth from a rooftop, but because the truth is patient and has a way of standing still while the rest of the world rushes by. That's where our digging began. We spoke with people who know them, people who know the rooms they've entered and the rooms they chose to skip. We sifted, questioned, double-checked, and what emerged wasn't scandal, it was a map. A map of two people who worked out how to love without letting the noise devour the song. By all accounts, their discretion wasn't an accident. Think about it, on one side, a leading man whose days are built on cameras, angles, scripts. On the other, a rising performer who pours her diary into lyrics for millions to hear. The easiest path would have been to gift the public every look and every embrace, then monetize the spectacle. But that's not what happened. Instead, they learned to choose their moments. A shared entrance here, a separate departure there. Clarity when it mattered, silence when it mattered more. We ask ourselves, is this strategy, or is it simply respect for something delicate? Maybe it's both. Before the world began to connect the stars, insiders say the two of them went through a phase of curiosity that couldn't decide whether to whisper or shout. At times, they drifted, busy schedules, distant cities, the magnetic pull of career milestones that won't wait for anyone's heart to catch up. At others, the intensity between them crackled. Those who were in the room tell us that when their eyes met, conversations slowed. The air seemed to change temperature. It wasn't the bold kind of romance, not then, it was two people waiting to see if what they felt would survive the test of everyday life. The secrets now surfacing aren't the kind that break things. They're the pieces that make things make sense. How did they truly meet? Not at a grand gala, as many assumed, but during a quiet afternoon in a studio complex where actors crossed paths with musicians, each rehearsing for entirely different projects. A misplaced notebook. A forgotten coffee. A polite apology that became a joke, which became a conversation, which turned into an hour on a couch in a lobby no one notices. That first talk wasn't about fame, it was about favorite films, the fear of failing at something you love, the thrill of doing it anyway. Something in that honesty clicked. We've also learned about little rituals, tiny markers of a private world they built behind closed doors. He'd send her audio notes recorded on set between takes, fragments of thoughts about scenes and nerves and gratitude. She'd answer with the first verse of a melody still in progress, inviting him into her process without handing it over to the crowds. They had a rule: their best moments would not compete with the camera, not unless they decided the moment could stand without losing its soul. Did they face obstacles? Of course they did. Every beautiful story does. There were long spans where work kept them apart, headlines they didn't like, comparisons they felt were unfair, and the pressure that shows up uninvited when two careers start accelerating at the same time. There were also quiet doubts: are we ready to share, or does sharing end the very magic that brought us here? Yet even in those tested weeks, they found a way back to center. Witnesses recall one particular evening after a difficult premiere: no after party, no staged exit. Just a tucked-away bistro, a late stew, hands held across a tiny table that wobble when someone breathes too deeply. Sometimes resilience doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like staying. And that brings us to the part that makes our hearts beat faster: the love that surprises. What, exactly, is so surprising? Maybe it's how quickly it deepened once they named it. Perhaps it's the steadiness with which it's moved forward since. Or it could be the delicate balance they've maintained, waving to the public without handing the public the keys. Fame begs for grand gestures, for kisses at sunset on red carpets, for confessions framed as headlines. But the most lasting romances often grow in the tender corners: a coat draped over weary shoulders, a voice message that says "I'm here," laughter that makes all the rooms feel like the same room. People talk about their chemistry like it's an instrument you could tune, but some things resist being measured. Watch them at an event, they don't need to cling to prove anything. When they do stand close, it's easy, unperformed. He listens when she speaks, you can see it in the stillness of his posture. She watches his interviews with the kind of focus that suggests she could finish his sentences, and yet she lets him finish them himself. There's a comfort to it, and comfort is rare under 1,000 lenses. We can't ignore the impact this connection has had on their work. Pairings like this can be a double-edged sword, you know that. Sometimes a relationship becomes a distraction, distorting an audience's sense of what's earned and what's borrowed. But with Gawkberg and Seamra, something different seems to be happening. His recent performances carry an extra shade of compassion, a softer middle note that turns full-bodied when least expected. Her newest tracks shimmer with clarity and lift, as if confidence has become a harmony line dancing under the melody. Critics and fans have noticed, and the conversation has shifted from "are they" to "whatever they are," it's lighting a fire in their work. It's easy to say love does that, but we think there's more. They seem to have made a pact about boundaries. The spotlight can be a greedy companion, and yet they've taught it to wait outside sometimes. People close to the couple insist on the same 3 ingredients: honest communication, an agreement on what remains private, and a deep respect for the lives they lived before they met. None of this makes for explosive gossip, but it does make for a bond that holds when the noise swells. Let's be clear, we are not painting a fairy tale. There have been prickly moments. The rumor mill doesn't sleep, and there were nights when an old photograph or a thrown-together headline tried to rattle their footing. But there's a reason we're talking about revealed secrets and surprising love rather than brittle drama. They've met the chaos with calm, refusing to argue with shadows. That restraint feels old-fashioned in a world that wants instant transparency, but it has served them. It's almost as if their relationship learned to breathe underwater while the rest of us tried to figure out what we were seeing on the surface. So where does that leave us today? Somewhere beautiful. Somewhere honest. We now know their beginning wasn't fireworks but flint and patience. We know they chose not to trade privacy for daily applause. We know they've crossed a few storms and found a way to stay warm anyway. And we know that, whether we call it destiny or timing or simply two people doing the brave work of caring for one another, this is a chapter that has earned its place in the book. If we had to stitch this into a single thread, we'd say the story of Gökberk and Seamra is a quiet masterclass in steering love through a noisy world. They've revealed only what strengthens them, tucked the rest in places only they can reach, and let their art carry the echo. From a chance studio hallway to a steady heartbeat that no flash could counterfeit, theirs is a reminder that true connection isn't loud, it's consistent. It doesn't always announce itself. It just keeps showing up. Tell us, what surprised you most? Was it the way they seemed to glide through questions without ever looking evasive? The small rituals that kept them close? The creative glow that appears to have spread across their different stages and sets? Drop your thoughts below, because this community thrives on your voice. We read everything, we debate, we celebrate, and we keep each other honest. That's the spirit of Turkish Spotlight Secrets, and you're part of the reason these stories land the way they do. If this dive into the world of Gawkberg and Seamra made your heart race, if the uncovered details gave you that delicious little thrill only a good reveal can give, go ahead and like this video. Share it with the friend who always sends you screenshots at midnight, with the group chat that refuses to sleep, with anyone who needs proof that the most surprising love stories are often the most carefully protected. And if you're new here, consider this your official invitation to join our circle, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and let the next episode find you wherever you are. We'll be back soon, as always, with more careful digging, more gentle light, and more tales that remind us why we pay attention in the first place. Until then, keep your eyes open and your hearts ready. Because somewhere behind the curtains and the applause, another story is already starting to breathe. This was Turkish Spotlight Secrets, and tonight, the secret had a beautiful name, Gökberk and Seamra.